Guys, welcome to Oh the Horror, a brand new YouTube channel based around all that has to do with horror, whether it be reviews on books, on movies, news, on anything, just whatever it is that has to do with horror, I'll cover it. Now, today's video is obviously going to be a bit different than most of the videos I put out, mostly because this video is just an introduction of who I am and the content I'll be putting out in the first place. Usually it will be mostly just streaming games or doing videos on news like I said earlier, or covering things. This is going to be my usual weekly upload until I get more use, I guess, to editing and overall just find new ideas, even if I need ideas and I need to wait a minute to think of an idea. Or sometimes I'll just fill in the week with a stream of DVD or VHS or whatever game, is out that's prominent at the time. Maybe a single player game that I've never played. This will probably be the weekly schedule that I talk about, whether it be a video or a live stream, and then we'll go off from there. But if you guys don't know me, my name is Matt. I am basically the host of Oh the Horror. I think like most people, my love for horror actually started as a child. Now, my parents weren't too fond of horror, but I kind of snuck my way into watching it. My brother was a bit older than me, so he would at least show me certain horror movies such as It when we were really young. But I primarily found them probably on Netflix, which is funny because that was when Netflix was starting up digitally, and my parents were not fond that I was watching horror movies. But to me, I don't know, there's always been this comfort around horror movies that my parents never kind of had. My parents always saw horror as gross or something that wasn't great, but I still grew up with different movies that I loved here and there from different genres, like action. I was a fan of Batman growing up and things like that, or Harry Potter for fantasy, but they weren't really always the things I would go to. It was always horror that I always came back to. I always say I don't know myself because I don't, but at the same time it's I've always had this love for horror that really never died, and it's still obviously become a big thing and became part of me today, one of the biggest things ever that's helped me with comfort and happiness, and just I don't know, it's just been a relaxing thing to watch or to read or to do. It's been my go-to choice for things. After thinking about for some time, honestly, I think horror has been my main reason to do a lot of things. One of my dreams one day is to maybe do acting at some point, and one of my dreams has been kind of from horror in general. I grew up not really knowing what to do or what I want to do with life, but I eventually am obviously figuring it out now. I'm figuring out a lot later than normal people. That's okay. Horror's been my main drive for mainly everything, honestly. Even collecting movies. At first, I think my first ever 4K was How the Grinch Stole Christmas, but Halloween and Christmas are the top two holidays for me. I don't know. Horror is one of the reasons why I collect nowadays in general. If I see a good movie, maybe sure a movie overall, I'll pick it up on 4K, but it's mostly horror. Most of my steelbooks are related to horror and stuff like that. So I think this is actually the perfect time to start covering news on information that we have coming out, and it doesn't even have to relate to movies. We got 4K releases for certain movies. We got games coming out from Supermassive Games just released The Quarry, and The Devil in Me, which is the new one coming out, which relates to Dark Pictures Anthology, and we just have so many things out that I haven't even played or seen, so there's so much even then that we could just cover and do things on, even breaking down stuff and seeing what Universal has this year for, the Nights of Fright and stuff, whatever they're doing for that, or the House of Horrors, things like that. There's so much information to be covered, especially nowadays within the realm of where we are now, because of how much we do have coming out and how much is out now that we can cover in general. So I think it's a good start, at least for this, because there's so much I could put out there, so many possibilities, even older content that I haven't seen. There are some movies I haven't seen, classic horror. I know people can crucify me for this, but I haven't seen things like Salem's Lot. Funny enough, Jaws I've never actually seen. I think I've seen Gremlins once, but I don't really remember it too well. I've seen Child's Play once, things like that. But we all have our favorite horror series. I have Scream and It, even though it's not really a series, and then you got Halloween's pretty good. I even like the sequels. I know that's another crucify me for it. Maybe not 5, but I loved 3. It's funny. I actually really like 3. Of course, 2 is obviously top tier. 1 is obviously the best. 2018 Kills was okay. I'll have to rewatch that. Then End's coming out this year, so we got a lot of content in general. But yeah, those are some of my favorite series, I guess. Friday the 13th, I actually own the whole collection, yet I haven't seen all of them yet. There's so much, so many spaces in between things I haven't seen. There's so many that I I need to watch, but I haven't. I've literally think this year for horror, I've watched quite a few things. I've watched You're Next. That was one of them. You know, I've seen Scream 2022 this year, X, which I want to do a breakdown on primarily. On top of that, I do want to see the rest of the Fear Street movies. I did see the first one and I loved it, but the second and third one, I guess when they came out, sometimes I just get like so lazy for like watching movies that some days I just really want to watch a movie or multiple, and another day I'm just kind of like, not really, you know. And there's just so much I do, but I do so many different things that sometimes my brain just doesn't say, oh, we should watch a movie or we should read a book. You know, I'm doing multiple things, you know, either playing games, going out with friends, talking to people, trying to figure out what I want to do normally with my life and stuff. So there's just a lot that's been going on still. So I haven't really had the time to watch certain horror movies, but you know, maybe I could always react to them, put reactions up of course, my reactions towards those movies, and then maybe give a review after or something like that, you know, things like that. I think I want to use this channel for too. On top of, you know, Fright Nights could be all about, again, they could be all about games and podcasts and stuff, and even like Q&As and stuff even, or something, you know, stuff like that, you know, just live streams of certain things that how relate to horror that we could do, you know, maybe even live streams of searching certain websites like Spirit or something, you know, things like that. So I think that'd be a cool idea too. You know, I got so many ideas in mind for this channel, that kind of reason why I want to create it, share again my love for horror with all of you guys. I kind of thought the general basis of my horror channel was going to be mostly about everything that has to do, whether it be media, with games, books, movies, theme parks, things like that. Because there's a giant, I think it's just the generalization of horror in general, you know? Like, I can get people who are into books and movies into certain horror games, because there are different media outlets out there that have horror aspects to it, you know? I mean, even then, one of my favorite bands of all time, actually, I just found them like a couple of years ago, but Ice Nine Kills, you know, they make music on horror movies and references and tie-ins, and it's just super cool to see how much horror media there is out there nowadays, and it's just exciting overall, and it's just cool to see all these genres creating subgenres of horror, creating new movies and stuff. You know, we're getting a couple new slasher movies, although one thing I would want to see return is found footage. I know we haven't had a real good found footage movie in a while, at least from what I know of, and it kind of sucks we haven't. Those movies are always so fun to me. It's super interesting. They're one of my favorite genres or subgenres of horror. There are a lot of found footage horror films I really haven't seen, like Dashcam just came out and stuff. I know that was banned in a couple of countries, but I'll have to give it a watch at some point. I think that about wraps up the video though. I've been your host of Oh the Horror, and I'll see you guys later.